The New England Patriots are done with Mac Jones, and there's an increasing likelihood that he is not their starting quarterback come the beginning of the 2024 NFL season. And with how Mac has played since his rookie season back in 2021, you can't blame the Patriots for wanting to try something different and go after another franchise quarterback. Now, when the New England Patriots selected Mac Jones with the 15th overall pick, the short-term expectations for him was to be a pretty efficient quarterback right away because he showed in college at Alabama that he had a pretty high floor, and I think most draft experts considered him the most pro-ready quarterback outside of Trevor Lawrence in the entire class. So him coming in right away and being an efficient player was always the expectation short-term. But on the contrary, the long-term expectations for Mac Jones was to replace the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. After the 2019 season, when Brady and the Patriots decided to move on from each other, they brought in Cam Newton, who was at the tail end of his career. He was definitely not the same player in his prime as he was in Carolina. But for that 2020 season, it didn't really matter a ton because he was their stopgap for their eventual rookie quarterback that they were going to take in the next year's draft. And obviously that became Mac Jones. So although he wasn't the immediate successor to Tom Brady, I don't think any Patriots fan really viewed Cam Newton as their long-term quarterback. So I think Mac got that torch, and that gave him a lot of expectations to perform early and actually become a really good quarterback. And to give Mac a little bit of credit, he did perform as the best rookie quarterback in the 2021 season. He outperformed the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. He outperformed the number 2 overall pick, Zach Wilson. He completed 67.6% of his passes for 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns to 13 interceptions, and a 92.5 quarterback rating. And you compare it to so many other rookie quarterbacks that have come in and struggled mightily right away, and Mac actually had a pretty impressive rookie season. But as we've learned about the NFL, it's really how you progress after your first year. You want to continue to get better and better and better. So year 2 is still a very important year for Mac Jones to continue to grow, improve, and show that he could be a really good quarterback in the league. But something that really helped him in his rookie season, in my opinion, was having Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator. A guy that had been there for like 20 years running the same offense, knows how to develop quarterbacks and bring them along. He was no longer going to be there for Mac in year number 2 because the Las Vegas Raiders made him their new head coach, and that put the Patriots kind of in a scramble mode to find who was going to be their next offensive coordinator. I'm not exactly sure how extensive their search was to finding a new offensive mind, but ultimately it doesn't really matter because the Patriots didn't even hire somebody who was an offensive coordinator to be their offensive coordinator. They brought back 2 guys who had familiarity with the team in Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, but Matt Patricia is a defensive coordinator. He's been a defensive coach basically his entire career, and Joe Judge was known as a special teams guy. None of these guys had extensive backgrounds in offense, and Belichick basically just assigned both of them to run the offense and both of them to call plays, and that was a huge big ordeal starting in the offseason. I remember seeing so many reports of how unhappy Mac was and how he didn't really like the offense and what they were calling and how it was performing, and I do get his point. Imagine being a young quarterback and now your head coach decides to give you 2 guys that don't really know what they're talking about in regards to offense and kind of hindering your development as a young quarterback. So Mac would go on to have a huge regression in 2022, only completing 65.2% of his passes for 3,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and an 84.8 quarterback rating. And so after Mac's really impressive rookie year to then having a pretty bad sophomore year, the narrative regarding Mac kind of shifted to, hey, maybe this guy is the quarterback of the future, to I think Mac might be one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. So after his second season, going into year number 3 was seen as a make or break year for Mac. The Patriots finally went out and hired a familiar face again in Bill O'Brien to be their offensive coordinator, but it got some good reviews because he actually had some sort of experience calling plays and being an offensive mind. He was the head coach of the Houston Texans for a long time. He had some good offenses there with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. He spent the last few years with Alabama. He had some previous experience with Mac Jones there. So I understood the hire. I was like, man, it's a huge upgrade over who they had last year in Patricia and Joe Judge. I was pretty optimistic that Mac was going to have a better year in 2023, but so far this year, it's really not gotten off to a good start. And after seeing the reports yesterday that Mac has a short leash and Malik Cunningham or Bailey Zappi could get some playing time if he struggles, it kind of became apparent to me that the Patriots are seemingly done with Mac Jones. And to put the cherry on top with how he performed yesterday against the Las Vegas Raiders, barely throwing for 200 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick against a pretty poor pass defense and yet another loss for the team, I think we could see a quarterback change for the Patriots before this season is even over. I mean, against the Raiders yesterday, he just had an absolutely terrible interception. He avoided the rush, got outside the pocket to his right, and he had Hunter Henry wide open down the field. He just sailed the pass as the Patriots were driving towards the red zone, and it was a very easy interception for Trayvon Moehrig, the safety of the Las Vegas Raiders. So after that game, Mac Jones is completing 64% of his passes this year for 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and the 29th best quarterback rating in the league with a 74.4 rating. And to combine with that, the Patriots are now 1-5. Their season is basically over. Now, I don't want to put it all on Mac Jones for the struggles of the Patriots this year. I mean, his supporting cast is definitely not good. I think this is definitely the worst supporting cast that he's had in his career, and by no means was his first or second year supporting cast really good either, but this year's offensive line is by far the worst that he's had. Vidarian Lowe has emerged as one of the worst tackles in the entire league. Seems like every game he gives up multiple pressures, a couple sacks, and they've been pretty banged up on the line too. Trent Brown has missed some games, Cole Strange has missed some games, Michael Winwu, their Pro Bowl guard, has missed some starts as well. So that definitely has not helped. The offensive line has definitely performed as one of the worst in the league. And then offensively, especially watching the game yesterday, I cannot believe that the Patriots got rid of Jacoby Myers and did not bring him back. He's been looking really good for the Raiders this year, and I think he could still be a really viable target in the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots. And they basically signed Juju Smith-Schuster over him, who hasn't really been super good this year. I mean, they got Devontae Parker and Kendrick Bourne. I mean, those guys are okay, but how many teams are actually starting those guys as their wide receivers? I don't really think many. So I do give Mac a little bit of a break for the weaponry that he has to play with, but also with what goes with that is he's not playing well himself. So when you're not playing good, your team is not playing good, and there's a loaded quarterback draft next year, yeah, it gets to the point where the franchise itself and fans are going to start clamoring for a new quarterback. And at this rate, I do think the New England Patriots are going to have one of the top picks in next year's draft, sitting at 1-5, bottom of the AFC East. Their next 2 games are against the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins, and they're going to be pretty big underdogs in both of those games. They're at home against the Bills next week, and they're already 9-point underdogs. I'm expecting that line to continue to rise throughout the week, and then they have to travel to Miami, and I expect that to be another double-digit line. So the Patriots will likely find themselves at 1-7, and they're still going to have another game against the Buffalo Bills. They have to play the Los Angeles Chargers. They have to play the Kansas City Chiefs. They have to play at Pittsburgh on Thursday night, which is not going to be an easy game either. So things are looking really, really rough for this team, and it doesn't help when really the 2 best players on your entire roster, and Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez, are going to be out for an extended period of time as well. Going into this year, I didn't expect the Patriots to have like a super efficient or super nice offense because they don't really have a lot of juice on the outside, and I think Mac is a limited player, but I did think they could be a playoff contending team if they had a really nice defense. They relied on the running game with Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott, and the defense started the year pretty good, but after all these injuries now, it's just a really banged up unit, and it just hasn't been good, especially the last 3 weeks. They're giving up a lot of points, a lot of yards, and if the Patriots find themselves at 1-7 after the next 2 weeks, I think it's more likely than not that Will Grier or Malik Cunningham or one of the young quarterbacks are going to get some opportunities the rest of the way. And then the Patriots will enter probably one of their most important off seasons in recent memory. Robert Kraft is going to have to decide if he wants to bring Bill Belichick back, if he wants Belichick to be the leader of their new rebuild, and even Belichick, if he wants to be a part of a rebuild or if he wants to go on and retire or maybe even coach another team that's more ready to win. And they're going to have to draft a new quarterback. But luckily for them, this is a really good quarterback class. There's so many top guys coming out. I mentioned it in so many videos, but you had the likes of Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, maybe even Shador Sanders. There's so many options, and with a top 10 pick that the Patriots are most definitely going to have, they're going to have the opportunity to get one of those guys in next year's draft. So Patriot fans, while I know things look kind of dire right now, you can have a completely new team next year with a ton of new energy coming into the building, maybe a new coaching staff, definitely a new quarterback, and I think that is something that you can look forward to the last few months of the 2023 season. But I want to know what you think about Mac Jones and the New England Patriots and what route you think they should go in the future. Do they bring Mac Jones back and try to build around him, or do you agree with me and think they should get a new quarterback in next year's draft and completely go forward with a new rebuild? But subscribe to the channel if you're new, drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, and as always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys in my next one.